Daniel Sports Central will be over a college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up here in Week 9 of this 2021 college football season. And it'll be over the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Crucial matchup for both these teams heading into Week 9. It's got some Big Ten East implications without a doubt, but it's also got college football playoff implications, in particular for Ohio State. The Buckeyes have crept back into the college football playoff picture, and this could be a huge resume booster for the Buckeyes. So, yeah, huge matchup for both these teams, though, all together. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Penn State last week had a devastating loss to Illinois, to say the least. 18-20 was the final score there. Went into 9 overtimes. I mean, that was an insane football game that we saw there. And quite honestly, for Penn State, that is very unfortunate for that football team because, I mean, now they're on a 2-game losing streak. They started out the season 5-0. They lost to Iowa on the road. Now they lost to Illinois at home. I mean, that was just a confusing loss for Penn State last week. And this is a very talented football team. And so to see them struggle against Illinois ball teams is definitely concerning. But for Ohio State, this team is looking great right now. They're playing outstanding. They are a much different football team versus Week 2. And especially Weeks 1 through 3, you could argue that. I mean, this football team just did not look good hardly at all. I mean, they lost to Oregon, of course. That's where their one loss of the season so far came from. They had closer games to Tulsa. Of course, that was a close game for a long time. And, of course, Minnesota as well. But, Ohio State, this is a much better football team now than they were a few weeks ago. And this is a team that I definitely could see in the college football playoff and potentially competing for a national championship again this season. I mean, the Buckeyes, there was a lot of uncertainty with this team a few weeks ago, but now it's safe to say this team is looking like a legit contender right now. They beat Indiana last week 54-7. It's a very good football team. I mean, they've finally found their stride. C.J. Stroud is playing outstanding. He's playing his best ball of the season so far. And so, yeah, major improvement for Ohio State so far this season, and they're on a 5-game winning streak as of right now. Game will be on Saturday, October 30th in Columbus. So Buckeyes are the home team here, and it's a night game too, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. In prime time is the time for this matchup. Spread currently Ohio State by 18.5. So Buckeyes, not too surprising, are heavily favored here. The over/under is 59.5, and your FPI is going Buckeyes 87%. So Ohio State is favored pretty significantly for this matchup, which makes sense. I mean, Penn State's got no momentum right now, because they took a loss to Iowa a couple of weeks ago, and they just lost to Illinois last week. So, yeah, Penn State's a tough situation for them. But series history, Buckeyes lead it 21-14 as of right now. Win streak is Ohio State by 4, so Buckeyes have won the last 4 matchups of this series. And in the last 10, Ohio State leads it 8-2. So, overall, Buckeyes clearly have had a better history recently and long-term in this matchup. Here's your stat comparison for this matchup. Penn State's got 26 points per game, 14 points allowed, 253 pass yards a game, 118 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 178 passing, and then 148 for rushing. So, obviously, Penn State last week, Sean Clifford was the starter for this football team, and, I mean, he's an excellent quarterback, but we just did not see that last week out of him. I mean, Sean Clifford is extremely talented, and so it's very unfortunate to see him go down against Iowa, but, I mean, hopefully, he's definitely a quarterback that can lead a team to a Big Ten title game. So, Sean Clifford, very talented football player there. And, for Ohio State with C.J. Stroud, C.J. Stroud did not look too good at the start of the season. I think we all can agree there, especially to Ohio State's standards. But, he's improved drastically over the course of the season without a doubt. So, yeah, for Ohio State, 49 points per game, 18 points allowed, 352 pass yards a game. Those are C.J. Stroud's stats there. 350 pass yards a game, 207 rush yards a game, and then for yards allowed, 230 passing, and then 119 for rushing. Recent matchups, Penn State lost to Illinois and Iowa in the past couple of games for them. They had a bye week in the middle as well. So this team has not won since October 2nd when they beat Indiana 24-0. They've also beaten Villanova 38-17 and beat Auburn 28-20, which Auburn, that's a good football team there. So certainly that's a big quality win for the Nittany Lions when they beat Auburn back on September 18th. But for Ohio State, once again, ever since that Tulsa game, 41-20, got the win by 3 touchdowns there, even though it wasn't the cleanest win. After that game, they've really played outstanding, averaging their opponents to less than 15 points a game. Beat Akron 59-7, beat Rutgers 52-13 on the road, beat Maryland 66-17, and beat Indiana on the road as well, 54-7. So, yeah, Buckeyes, tremendous amount of talent right here. And they're probably one of the most dangerous teams in the country right now. This is a football team that's got 1 loss on the record, but I consider them to be a top 3 team in the country. as of right now, just based off of how they've been playing over the past few weeks. And I mean, this is a big test for Ohio State. We'll really see what this team is made of here in this matchup against the talented Penn State football team. Some key points here. Penn State, of course, is now ranked 20th in the country after their second straight loss, and they were a New Year's Six bowl contender a couple of weeks ago at 5-0, and maybe people were saying how Penn State could easily be the dark horse to win that Big Ten East division, which still wide open, by the way. Ohio State, Michigan, or Michigan State could easily win that division. We'll find out whether Michigan or Michigan State will be the other contender in that division after their game this weekend. But yeah, Penn State, it's going to be very difficult for this team to win the division now that they've lost to two Big Ten Conference teams. And of course, Ohio State, I mean, if they can get a win here, that'll definitely help them a ton in any hopes of getting there. But one more loss here, if Penn State loses, they are without a doubt out of contention for that Big Ten East, especially considering how competitive it is. But I mean, you got to consider too, Penn State is coming off of a brutal 9-overtime game against Illinois. So obviously that's a very long game. I mean, it was the longest game in college football history. So you have to wonder whether there's going to be some fatigue there, some burnout, especially after two straight losses, and one of them being a brutal loss to a less than mediocre football team. So, I mean, yeah, Penn State still a lot to play for though here. This team can definitely still get to a good bowl game. I mean, Outback Bowl, Citrus Bowl is definitely both of those bowl games are certainly good options. And, of course, not the Big Ten East, though. I think the Big Ten East is kind of not within reach anymore for Penn State, but there's still a lot to play for. I mean, this team can still get to a good bowl game. So, certainly there's got to be some motivation in this Nittany Lion team. But for Ohio State, dramatically improved throughout October. I mean, I've said that before, but it's so true. I mean, this football team has really found their stride. C.J. Stroud, once again, he's extremely improved, and he's playing as well as he ever has with Ohio State so far. And you got to consider, too, Buckeyes do have the home field advantage. If it was in Penn State in a night game, I would think this game will be a bit closer, and potentially Penn State could pull a big upset. But it's in Ohio State in a night game, and that's going to make it even more difficult for Penn State, especially coming off of two straight brutal losses. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to get a win here. So anyway, that being said, let's get to the prediction here for Penn State and Ohio State. I'm going to go Buckeyes here, 35-24. And quite honestly, I mean, it would be very tough to pick Penn State in this matchup just because, I mean, that team's got no momentum right now. I mean, they could win the game. We've seen some crazy things happen in 2021, so I'm not counting them out. But it's going to be brutal for Penn State to win this game on the road in a night environment in the shoe. It's going to be a very tough or it always is a tough place to play, but especially at night. So, yeah, Ohio State 35-24 is my predicted final score. I'm going to go 70% chance Buckeyes get the win here. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was by 2 touchdowns or so. Definitely, it's going to be at least, I'd say, a 7 to 10 point win for the Buckeyes. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, 35-24 is my predicted final score. Penn State is a very good football team once again. I'm not counting them out by any means, but coming off of 2 straight tough losses and a 9-overtime game against Illinois, which they lost, it's going to be tough for Penn State, and Ohio State being the home team. Got to go with them, 35-24, and they're going to get their first big quality win so far this college football season. Over-under is 55 or 59.5. I'm taking the under just slightly. And if you're going to bet the over-under here, be cautious because, I mean, Ohio State, this team could win this game by a lot. And, I mean, it could easily go over. I mean, it's basically a coin toss for sure with the over-under. I'm not certain on either side. I mean, I've got 59 total points, so I'm a half point below the line there. But anyway, that being said, that wraps it up for today. Let me know your thoughts and comments below on this game. And I appreciate you guys all watching. As always, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. See you guys later.